Thanks for joining me. So today we're going to be tying a Super Snaelda. Now there's an awful lot of materials, a lot of different things going on in this, so I have a few bits already pre-prepped. On my pin I've got a 10mm shrimp fly tube from AM Fly Tying. I have it pre-lined with some 1.8mm tubing, and I've also got the silicone tubing added onto the back of it. So when it's on the pin, it slips and spins relatively easy, but we'll catch on with some thread. I'm going to be using some 8/0 black uni thread. Now when we catch on our plastic liner, that should tighten down onto our pin and should stop the plastic liner sliding. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to build up the step between the plastic liner and our metal shrimp tube. This just gives us a smooth transition for when we're stepping down onto our plastic liner. We're going to be finishing off with a cone head. So that's why we're using a flangeless tube rather than a flanged. We're going to come right down onto the plastic. Now we'll just move up onto our brass cone now, and once you get a few wraps on that, you'll find that it's nice and tight on the pin, it doesn't slip. So we'll just fill up some of those recesses on our way down, just on our way back, and we'll go to the very last recess. And that was there. So for the tail, I'm going to be using some bucktail in the Willy Gun colours, black, orange and yellow, which I have pre-mixed here. We'll just line up some of them tips a bit better. There we go. I already have two batches of fibres set aside. So for the first one, we're just going to lie it over the top. Yeah, that'll do there. Thumb on the top just to splay it round the tube a little, and come in with a couple of loose turns, tighten down, and then again take a second patch. If there's any long fibres, just either realign them or pull them out altogether. And then I'm just going to rotate the vise slightly there, 180 degrees, just to make sure. So line the fibres up with the ones you've originally put in. Same thing, thumb on the top to spread them, a couple of loose turns and tighten in. And at this point now I'll just check to make sure there's no bare parts around the tube. It's pretty well covered. Happy enough for that. It's a pretty even. It's pretty even the whole way around. Right, so next material, I'm going to add some, I'll stick a bit of flash in first. So I have some Pearl Micro crystal flash. So we're going to go 4 strands of that, roughly. We'll just tie it in quarters, either the length of your bucktail or slightly longer. So I just take 1 strand, tie it in on my side, tie it in on the off side, trim it off, don't worry about any bits sticking out, we'll tidy them up later. And then again, top, a couple of turns to hold it in place. And then for the bottom, you can either tie it in there or just rotate the vise. If you have a rotary vise, just to see where you have it. Again, a couple of turns just to hold it in place, and then we'll trim that out of the way. And now I'm also going to be adding some stripped haggle stalks. I have 2 orange and 2 yellow here. You can buy these pre-stripped, but normally I just pull them off a cape, some of the bigger feathers that I don't really use too much, and strip them. It can be a bit messy, but It works out. It's a lot more cost effective than buying them. So just before I tie that in, on the base of the feather, you'll see it's nice and flat. So if you tie it in, you can tie it in to curve out the way you want. If you try going too far down, the stem seems to round off a bit, and you can have a lot of trouble with it twisting and just not lying the way you like. So it's always worth bearing in mind. Pick out fibres or feathers that are roughly the length you want. You want to be aiming to tie that flat spade end in. So again, we'll go for an orange on the top and an orange on the bottom as well. We'll just use our flash that we've already tied in as a guide. Tie it alongside our flash, and then the yellow. Just turn that round a bit so I can see. There we go. Oh, that's in the wrong place. Needs to be there. There we go. Half a dozen turns just to tie that in place, and then bring it round. Now I'm going to add some eyes in this, so I have a pack of Vineyards medium fly eyes. I'll just pull two of them out. They're made on quite heavy mono, so depending on where you want them yourself, there's no real right or wrong place. You can add them to the top, or if you want it, you could have them mounted on the sides as well. But for me, I like this one. For this pattern, I like them on the top, and I like them relatively long, so they show through the bucktail. So I'm actually quite happy with that placement. We'll catch on with a few turns of thread, and then just pull it. See what we're like there. Not too bad. Say there's an awful lot going on in this pattern. How's that looking? Yeah, looks okay in the camera. With this mono, you want plenty of wraps to hold it in place. It's thick for cutting. There's a tendency to slide about a bit, so now I'm just going to come in with my scissors and first of all try and trim some of that mono away. You want quite sharp scissors for it. There's the first one was okay, and the second one, and then I'm going to bind that down before I cut my bucktail, and this should help add to the taper. Okay, coming in with the scissors, cutting the bucktail at an angle, just trying to avoid any big nasty steps. That's okay, we'll just tidy that up. Cut this wee bit of crystal flash out of the way, so let's tidy up some of those cut ends. Right, so for the rib, I'm going to be adding some 0.3mm Simperfly silver wire. I'm going to, there we go. And we'll just catch it in. At the top of our fly and tie it in the whole way down. This helps keep our body relatively smooth. And for the body, I'm going to be using black dubbin. This is a seal's fur substitute. I actually think it's Angora goat. Seal's fur is getting quite difficult to get hold of, especially in any sort of quality, whereas I like this. It's probably softer than seal's fur. It's quite easy to work with. So it's quite a long dubbing noodle, and we're just going to work our way down, creating a nice carrot shaped body. And maybe just add a little bit more. I thought I had some lying out, but so yeah, just creating a nice bulky thick body shape. Adds a bit of profile to the fly. And then we're going to take our rib. I prefer wire rather than oval for this, as you can really pull it into the body. Let's just try and get that evened out, nice even segments. Sometimes doesn't work out that well with a taper in the body. It might has a tendency to slide down a bit, but quite good there. Gives a nice segmented body. Again, I like, my preference would be to use dubbing rather than floss. I like the sort of straggly look that it gives. Again, once you've had a fish or two on it, then the dubbing pulls through a bit more. There we go, that looks quite good. Now, I'm going to be finishing this off with a black hackle. So I'll be taking this from a natural black hen saddle. For this sort of pattern, I prefer the saddle to the neck, and definitely I would rather have a hen hackle as a cock hackle. They're nice and webby. So this one's quite long fibres. I'm going to be wanting them to probably drop further back than the body. Just get our tip exposed, trim it off. A few turns of thread just to hold it in place, and then the hen hackles are quite webby, especially the saddle, so you don't really need too many turns. There's one full turn. One. We could maybe go another, say 2 full turns. 1.5. You'd probably be okay with 1.5. And then just trim in, or trim off our waist. I thought I caught the stem there, but it must have just been some of the fibres. There we go. Just make sure you don't cut your thread at that point too. So fingers and thumb end just pulling your hackle fibres back. A few turns of thread just to make sure everything's caught back. That's quite good there. And then I'm going to come in with a whip finish. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 turns. It's a lot handier to do your whip finish on the tube flies by hand rather than the whip finish tool. Sometimes with a pin you just don't have enough room. I'll trim off my thread there. And as I said earlier, we're going to finish this off with a cone. So just to match the rib, I have a silver 5.5mm brass cone. Again, you could use a gold rib, finish it off with a gold cone as well. Just have a super glue lid stuck to it. So quick. No, that's not working out well. The super glue's all hardened. So quick spot of super glue. There's maybe a little bit much there, so I'll clean some of the excess off with a hackle. There. And then slide the cone on. Just hold it in place for a couple of seconds, making sure you don't super glue your fingertips to the tube. That can happen. And that's basically it. All that remains to do is take the tube off, which it should slide off. Yep, it slides off. We'll try and do this in front of the camera now. So we have our tube. We just need to furl the end of it, so trim off, just leaving a couple of millimeters of tubing. Want to hold the fibres back. We'll come in with our lighter, furl the end of the tube, just give it enough heat to furl the tube and not actually burn it. And then to make sure we haven't sealed over the hole, come in with a dubbing needle. You can either use a dubbing needle or just slide it back onto your tube. And then just trim down our hackle stalks. I just take any of the bits off that still have the feathers on, or the fibres. And there you have the Willy Gun Super Snaelda. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video.